In this video, we're going to get into the eVolve mechanical hanger specifications, where they're located, how they're set up, what they're used for. What For most users, this is just where you're going to go to import and export the hanger, the hanger specifications that somebody else has set up. You're doing something, you realize that the project that you're working in doesn't have them loaded in. This is where you go to load all those things in. For the more advanced users, this is going to get into how do I set a hanger specification up for the hanger placement tool. It's, you know, depending on who we're working for or what the system is, we may require different spacing between hangers than what's already in there. This is also going to get into our rod adjustments for our different embeds, for blue bangers or beam clamps, depending on what the structure is. This is where you go to set those things up and that criteria up. This also gets into the clash detection portion of eVolve. You can set different tolerances for, I'm clashing with something and I want to be as sensitive as moving it 2 inches one way or the other, or 6 inches. It all depends on what you're doing, but if you're doing something, maybe it's taking too long, you can go into the clash detection portion of this and change it out. So the hanger placement or hanger specifications are located in the eVolve tab underneath settings, and you can click on hanger specifications. The other way you can get to it is we have a keyboard shortcut in-house of HS, and it will pop up. If you're a new user and you're going to bring, you want to import our specifications in, you just go to this bottom button here, export and import, and hit import from file. It's going to ask you, it's going to overwrite everything you have. Are you okay with that? Yes, we're okay with it. And we are going to go to where our hanger specifications live. Once you hit open, it's going to load them in, and it's going to let you know you need to shut this window and reopen it if you want to see everything that has changed. So, eVolve mechanical hanger specifications, we've got them successfully loaded in. As far as these tabs go, we've got a hanger configuration tab. This is where we go to set up our different hangers for different systems. So, it's got it broken up between duct rectangular, duct round, and pipe work. That's what we have put together. Then it breaks it up by what material it is. The material's a lot more important on the pipe side than it is on the duct side, where the duct is pretty consistent across the board. But if you expand one of these, you'll see I'm expanding the galvanized. These are my breakpoints. And the way this reads is if it is 1 foot 11 inches equal to that or less, I want my spacing to be 10 feet. I want it to be a foot from the end, a foot from a joint, and I want you to use this hanger. If we go to the pipe side, you'll see that they've got a lot more breakpoints. Every 2 inches, the spacing changes depending on what is it, carbon steel. Has some pretty large spacing, but if we get into the PVC, you'll see that the spacing is much tighter. That's just plastic doesn't have the same strength over a span that steel does. And then it uses a different hanger depending on what we're doing. So this uses a 3/8 rod with a clevis hanger at 7 foot spacing. This is a clevis hanger with a 1 inch rod with 27 foot spacing. Um, if you wanted to add something completely new, you can, or edit something, you can hit add, and it's going to ask you some basic information. What do you want it to apply to? Ductwork or pipe? What material is this assigned to? What spec are we using? What thickness is it? And then what is the highest size? Where do you want your breakpoint to be? So I could type in 18 inches. My spacing, I could say 10 feet. From end, 1 foot. And then I can choose what hanger I want to apply to that. If I'm good with everything I have here, I can hit update and it will add this entry into my services. If I wanted to edit an existing entry, say, you know, this here, the 3-inch 12-foot spacing doesn't work for one of our clients, we can hit edit, and it already has this information put in. We could put in 11 feet instead, and you'll see that it updates that. If you want to change it back, update again, it changes it back. If you make a bunch of changes and you want to give this to somebody else, you can always go down here, export to file, and it will ask you to save an XML file. It's a good idea to keep these located in a central location with a naming convention that makes sense. So if this is client specific, maybe I keep this eVolve hanger specifications, but maybe at the end I put my client in parentheses. The other thing we can control from here is our rod embeds. This is a location that lets us set up different embeds for, you know, different rod sizes. So this is the model number of a blue banger. It works for the a quarter inch rod. As far as our embed depth, we can control how far that rod will actually be extended into our banger. You know, there's a certain amount of rod that has to screw in to the fastener, and we can adjust that. And then there's common family paths. eVolve has some families already put together out of the box that we can use. They work pretty well. Let's say, you know, we're generating a bomb and we don't like the extra length that it's giving us. We could come in here and we could adjust it however we want. The last tab is this options tab. This is where we go to, you know, set up what kind of hanger placement method. We got a couple options, material and service. Material is the one we're using presently. That's why when we go to hanger configuration, you see it's all organized by the material. Collision adjustment, we can either keep it enabled or not. The hangers run a little bit quicker when this isn't enabled, but you know, we lose some of that automatic clash fixing that eVolve provides. So we're gonna, but it depends on what you're trying to do. As far as tolerance and interval, and maximum movement, the tolerance is, it lets you know, you know, how much space does that rod need between it and something else. If we set this to 2 inches, it will make sure that there's 2 inches of space from this rod and anything else. The interval is if it detects a clash, how much does it move back and forth to try and solve that? What are the increments that it goes? So it could, if it goes 6 inches, it will move in 6 inch chunks trying to find a clear path. The maximum movement is you don't want the software to just keep spinning its wheels trying to figure out where to place this. So it will move in 2 inch increments, but it will move a maximum of 4 feet before it just gives up and says, you know what, this is one that you as a user have to figure out. We also have the option to change our flash highlight color. Out of the box, it's set to orange, but we can set it to anything that we like. And that's pretty much it. That you may run into a situation where you either need to import or export or change this up as you go. So just knowing where it's located is going to be helpful for you.